Hi grade 10s, we're going to look in this video on page 75, cancellation of discounts on RD checks. So what's a RD check? It's a dishonor check, okay? And normally you get paid and you receive money in the CRJ, and then the debtor's account is basically minimized or decreased by your check. But if it's dishonored, it means something happened so that this check didn't go through in the end. Okay, so let's just go through the first step. Okay, so debtor E. Waller pays his account by check, discount is allowed. So what do you do now? In the CRJ, remember there's a couple of columns there. Okay, and you write, it's a source document, it's a receipt, and the physical amount that you received was a specific amount. Let's say you received 100 Rand. Okay, and your discount allowed, so the discount allowed was 5 Rand, so he basically settled the account of 105 Rand. Okay, so bank is debited, you're receiving the money in the bank in the CRJ. Mr. E. Waller and debtors control is credited. Okay, bank is an asset, so it increases on the debit side. Okay, and debtors control is also an asset, and it decreases now because the person owes you less. Okay, so I'm saying again, assets increases, bank increased, it's a plus. Okay, and the debtors control decreased on the credit side. Okay. Then there was a discount allowed. Now, discount allowed, if you allow some discount, it's an expense to you. It's not a good thing, so that's why you debit it. It decreases the owner's equity. Okay? And because you're also decreasing the amount that the debtor owes you, debtors control and Mr. E. Waller is credited. So discount allowed expense increases, or we just say that the owner's equity decreases, so that's why it's a minus. So don't become confused when I say discount allowed expense increases. The expense, there's more expenses, but it decreases your owner's equity. That's why we put it on the debit side. Debtors control is an asset, and that decreases again. Alright, so that was your original transaction when you paid. Okay, that's your original transaction when you paid. Now, if Mr. Waller's check is returned by the bank due to insufficient funds, you will say, okay, if I normally wrote it in the CRJ, to reverse it, I'm going to write it in the CPJ. And what was that check for? The amount, the physical amount for the check was only 100 Rand. Okay, so it's a bank statement transaction. You see it on the bank statement that it's a RD transaction. So now, where normally the debtors control decreased, now you have to increase the debtors control again because he owes you more again. Okay, Mr. Waller must owe you the money again, and if it's in the CPJ, your bank decreases. Okay, so your debtors control increases again, which is an asset. Bank is also an asset, and it decreases. So you will see here debtors control asset increases and bank asset decreases with only the 100 Rand. But now somewhere we have to show the 5 Rand discount allowed that is being reversed. Okay, so we do that transaction in a general journal voucher, E. Waller, debtors control, discount allowed. Okay. And E. Waller's account increases again, he owes you the money again, and where discount allowed is normally expense, we have to cancel it now. Okay, so now it will be credited, and it's almost like an income because you are reversing the expense that you had, you writing it on the credit side. So you're reversing the transaction. Can you see that in the beginning, discount allowed was debited, now it will be credited. Debtors control for the previous transaction was credited, now it must be debited again. Okay, it increases again. Okay, so the asset increase, he owes you the money again, and the discount allowed expense decrease. In effect, if the expense decrease, it's like an income to you. And there we see that the full 105 Rand is on his account again. Okay, let's look at an illustrative example. S. Shooter settled his account with a check for 750. So the physical amount that he paid was 570 and the discount was 30. So there's two columns in the CRJ, and the one says receipts, okay, and the one account says discount allowed, and it's all under debtors control. This is now in the CRJ. Okay, so he settled this account in the CRJ. There is a receipt amount of 570 and 30 Rand discount allowed. Okay, so that's a 600 Rand. Now the bank informed the store that the check was not paid due to insufficient funds. So the original check amount was only the 570. Okay, it's only the 570 that you're reversing in the CPJ. So this is in the CRJ and that section is in the CPJ. Okay, so now we have to go and record it. Take a look at that. Cash receipts journal, S. Shooter, there's the DL8, there's a 570, it's in bank, it's in the receipts there, and there's the 30 like I just showed on the previous page as well. The two together is 600 Rand that the debtor owes you. 570 was what you physically received, and the 30 Rand was a discount that you allowed him, but his account was worth 600 Rand. Okay, you can take that alternative solution out. We'll just make you, it will just confuse you a bit. So now, what happens? The next transaction that was in the CRJ, the top. Okay, the next transaction takes place in the CPJ, the reversal of the 570, and obviously bank decreases and debtors control increase again. Okay, so your asset increase again, and your bank decreases because you paying money out. Okay, so showing it in the general journal. Now you only have to show the 30 Rand discount. You have to show in the general journal. So there is the debtors control S. Shooter, which is a debtor, increasing again. So you just write S. Shooter. Discount allowed is now like an income. You're reversing the transaction like the previous page. 30 Rand debited, discount allowed credited. Remember, S. Shooter is a debtor, and that's why we put it on the debit side as well. So debit and a debit there as well. Just add it together. Alright, so this is your general journal entry. That's what's new. The reversal you've done before, but remember it's only the physical amount, the 570 that was paid, and the other 30 Rand you're increasing his debtors account. There's 570 and another 30, so now he's supposed to owe 600 Rand again. Okay, let's look at the debtors control account. When you physically do it, the guy started with 6,000 Rand balance, which he owed us. Okay, so what was the first transaction taking place? He pays us. Okay, so 570 decreases the debtors control, discount allowed decreases the debtors control, so his account becomes less with 600 Rand, the two there. But now there's a reversal of the transaction. So now he must owe the 600 Rand that was paid off, he must owe it again, and that's in the CPJ bank RD check, 570, and discount allowed. I normally don't write sundry accounts, I write discount allowed. It's a reversal of that transaction. So we write it on the debit side. There's 30. Okay. Alright, so first transaction was before he paid, discount was allowed of 30 Rand, and then there's an expense being created here. Okay. And the other account is debtors control. Now you're reversing the transaction from the general journal, and there you will see the general journal debit debtors control increases again with the 30 Rand. He owes you the money again, and the discount allowed gets cancelled. So now this becomes 0. Okay, last one then, debtors ledger is Shooter owed 600 Rand. Okay, 570 through the CRJ, and he only owed 30. Discount allowed again 30, and then he owes 0, and then you must owe the money again. So RD check CPJ 570, he owes 570 again, and the discount cancelled 30 Rand to get to the 600.